John Vandervelden again, and this is the fourth installment, or fourth video, of my virtual authors events. And I hope that you have been enjoying these videos. And so I was going to talk today about one of the questions that I'm asked when I do a in-person event is, where do the stories come from? A lot of authors will kind of figure that's a guarded secret, that the stories come from us to us by some magical or mystical means. And that is, I don't find it's true, and I'm not afraid to talk about it. Each story comes from a simple idea of one kind or another. And I call those the seeds of the story. Whether it is in 411 Apple Street that people are not what they seem, or in Not Turning Back, or No Turning Back, pardon me, the awkwardness of a 12-year-old boy and his life. Each of those seeds sprout the story to me, for me, and I start building on them. And I love stories that I haven't got a clue where they're going. Or I take that seed and I let it sprout and grow and see where it takes me. In those cases, I'm excited at writing the first draft because I would like to know how it turns out. The same as when I'm reading a well-written book. Each page takes me to a place I haven't been before. Other authors may use different processes, but that's the process I love the most. So when I wrote Misty Creek, the draft for Misty Creek was much longer than this book, and it ended up being the first draft of Elizabeth's journey as well. But the seed I started with there was, what would Elizabeth do? How would she react? How could she continue her life as a person who has been abandoned at the altar? Here she is planning her wedding and has dreams of what her life would be, only to find them stolen from her. Then that led to the story that it became. And I was told that 4 years after I had been into it and working on this story, that the concept of a jilted wedding was too trite. I had to look that up. Too simple, too overused. But I had a lot invested in the story, so I wasn't just going to not finish it because someone else decided the story was too trite. And those of you that have read Misty Creek, I hope you find that the story has a depth and a little different perspective than other stories you've read. But those seeds are just the beginnings of the story. And from them, a story might grow, and as it grows, it might take on new central themes. And that's exciting too for a writer. In No Turning Back, as I mentioned before, Lawrence Andrews, pardon me, was 12 years old when his whole life unraveled. And he felt that his opinion wasn't taken into consideration, that the life he had lived before was the life he thought he should be living still. And from that, I grew a story of, I think, 9 parts and 9 periods of this man's life, this boy's life who grew to be a man. And the final theme was heroes, which is about as far from the original seed as possible, I suppose. And it took him 80 years during the story. It took me 8 months to really focus on what a hero is when you really get down to it. I learned in writing that story. And I think that's what I enjoy most about creating a story, is building on things that I have experienced, people I have met, things I've read about, programs I've seen on television, books I've read. And all these things come together within my mind. Just as in your mind, you have all these things come together. And then, when you start creating a story and you want it to be believable, you want the characters to feel real. You want the circumstance to be something that doesn't shock people terribly, so that they ride along on this journey with you. You tap into the realities that you have stowed away. We talked in my writers group about, does your life experiences end up on the page? And the simple answer is, whether we realize it or not, they do. And so a writer isn't someone that magically takes a sip of water and a story appears in its completion in his mind. By no means. Or at least this writer isn't. A writer takes his own life experiences and his own thoughts, maybe not even conscious thoughts, and pieces together a story like building a house, plank by plank, board by board. The seed is in the foundation. Where it takes you is up to the writer to lead, to his mind to take him. I enjoy writing. I loved writing the first draft. I particularly like writing a first draft when I have no idea where the story's going. There are times when I have to write a story, or I do write a story, when it's kind of like building a bridge from here to there. I know where I'm starting, I know where I'm supposed to end up. It's piecing it together and hoping that you reach the right destination. You've seen the things on Facebook where the engineers have built an overpass where the two halves don't meet. Sometimes it feels like that when you're writing that kind of a story, where you know where you have to go and you know where you start. But I find that more difficult. But we've used up our time for this video, and I was trying to hold them for around 10 minutes, and I'm so happy of those of you that have taken the time to watch these little shorts. And if you have a question you would like to ask me and I could answer in one of our future visits, leave one in the comments. If you don't want your question out where everyone else can see it in the comments, personal message me. Or you can visit my website, johnvanderveldenauthor.com. Or actually, it's johnvandervelden.com. My world of words. And we thank you for visiting with me today, and I hope that you have a very great weekend. Blessings. Good day.